You and I both know it's ironic how they always talk about Joe Biden, his mental decline, and how he messed up the government, which we know isn't true. The current administration right now is staging a coup and a takeover before our very eyes. But I like to bring you information and what I see through my eyes. We got to stay up to date on what's going on in this country. And I thought this bit from a news reporter was very interesting regarding Donald Trump's intelligence level and mental decline. It's funny, but it's not, because that's the man that has the codes and the button to start a nuclear war that can impact our lives, or let's be honest, end them. Stay aware. Take a deep breath. Giggle and laugh. But know nothing about what this news reporter is saying is a joke and what we're seeing before our eyes. I'm your girl, Boost Boswell. Make sure you subscribe.
We must never lose our capacity to be shocked by the sheer stupidity and rank ignorance of Donald Trump. And he gave us an example of that today in the Oval Office that I highlight here right now for historians to find 50 years from now, 100 years from now, when they are trying to describe just how stupid and ignorant Donald Trump was, especially how stupid and ignorant Donald Trump was while speaking in the Oval Office. This is one we can really hope future historians do not miss.
A lot of wars there was no reason for. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War, it always seemed to me maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people.
History will find that there was a president of the United States who did not know that the Declaration of Independence was written and signed 85 years before the Civil War. You look right up there, I don't know, see the Declaration of Independence, and I say, I wonder if the Civil War always seemed to me, maybe that could have been solved without losing 600,000 plus people. That's what he said. So he looks at the Declaration of Independence on the wall, and then he thinks that the Declaration of Independence was the product of the Civil War. We've always known that Donald Trump could not possibly pass a high school AP history course. We've always known that Donald Trump couldn't pass any test in any high school history course. But now we know that he couldn't possibly have passed any history test in my third grade at St. Brendan's Elementary School in Boston and Dorchester. We knew that order of history, what came first, in the third grade. Declaration of Independence first, Revolutionary War second, Civil War a distant third to those events. There are children in elementary school in America tonight who are laughing at that video that they just saw right now, especially kids on the West Coast where this show is airing early enough for them to see it. The psychiatrists promised us in the first year of the first Trump presidency that there was only one direction that his mental health could go. And every day, Donald Trump proves them right. Donald Trump's mental decline, which is more and more obvious, started from such a low level of mental processing power that it's hard to track his decline. It's from low to lower. And then there are days like today when Donald Trump asks himself out loud in public if he is allowed to appoint himself chair of the Federal Reserve. Now, it may be tiresome to hear, but we must not grow weary of making the point that no other president was ever capable of saying anything as stupid or as indicative of dementia as that. Am I allowed to appoint myself chair of the Federal Reserve?
We have laws. We have to go by the laws. We can't move in the National Guard. I can call insurrection, but there's no reason to ever do that, even in a Portland case. We can't call in the National Guard unless we're requested by a governor.
Thank God it is finally time for the last word with Lawrence O'Donnell. Good evening, Lawrence.
Rachel, go on and on. There's no hurry.
I have been looking forward to hearing what you have to say in your A block tonight all weekend long. I cannot wait.
Well, you know, Rachel, in 2020, when Donald Trump was in what was then his failed re-election campaign for president against Joe Biden, he in an interview with George Stephanopoulos, he very specifically said the president cannot just send in the National Guard to any state. The governor has to request it, and the president cannot just send them in. And he said, I could, something like, I could call an insurrection, but, that hasn't happened. And so he's on record, of course, saying exactly the opposite of what he's now doing, as he has been with so many things. But this one is really quite striking. I think we're going to have that video ready. Actually, they're working on it right now. The longer you and I talk about it, it gives them a minute in the control room to get that piece inserted where I'm hoping it's going to be inserted when we need it. But it's right there, and we'll have it by the end of the hour if we don't have it early.
I mean, the difference between when he was talking about that then and what he's doing now is that whether or not he remembers what he once knew about how America works, he's decided that he's throwing it all out, dictator from day one, and gonna terminate parts of the Constitution, and he's decided that he doesn't matter what Congress does and it doesn't matter what the courts do, that he's just the strong man, and he's gonna be, in for another term in 2028. I mean, he's decided to throw out all the rules. The thing that has done, as far as I'm concerned, is make him very boring, because it's like, it's all on the table. We know exactly what he's doing. We know exactly what his intentions are. He's blonde Berlusconi. This is just, he's just trying to do the same thing all the other strongmen and would-be dictators do all over the country. I think the really interesting question is what the country lets him get away with. And we're seeing a really interesting test of that right now all over the country, especially this week.
And we're also seeing the difference between the advisors he had in the White House the first time and the people he has now. He obviously had a White House counsel in his first presidency who was telling him, no, it's illegal. You cannot just send in the National Guard. The governor has to request it. And now he has people telling him whatever he wants to hear, whenever he wants to hear it.
Yeah, I think that if we can intuit what he's being told, I think based on the pattern of his actions, we can probably intuit that what he's being told is, yeah, it's illegal, therefore go do it. I mean, I think that the more laws he breaks, the more blatantly unconstitutional things he both proposes and tries, I think the more they think power accrues to him because he's less constrained by things that don't actually stop him. And so ultimately, the courts are pushing him back. Congress, to a certain extent, is pushing him back a little bit, although I think a little bit more than they're given credit for. But mostly it's the people pushing him back. He's deeply, deeply, deeply unpopular and underwater on every issue. And he is absolutely panicked by the protests against him, to the point where he's already playing the biggest cards that he's got, and he's not even 6 months into this term. I just think, I think we're getting the test really early, and I think that he's failing.
By the way, one of the important things that Mayor Bass brought out when you were talking to her about what's happening in Los Angeles tonight, and you know this, but just how isolated and tiny a spot of Los Angeles we're talking about. Downtown Los Angeles, where in the areas where these office buildings are, very few people live anywhere near that. It's not a residential area. Most people living in Los Angeles, most Los Angeles local taxpayers never set foot in that part of Los Angeles. You can easily live a life there and never see it. And so it is this really isolated little spot that doesn't in any way disrupt any protest that's being held down there outside a federal building, doesn't in any way disrupt anything about the way life is lived in Los Angeles.
I mean, even if these protests were 100 times the size that they are, there still wouldn't be an operational reason to bring in active duty troops or federalized National Guard. I mean, it's not that sort of thing. This is obviously not operationally necessitated, right, in terms of the security of the city. He's doing this because he's panicking and thinks that he looks weak and therefore he has to do something that seems strong. And so we will have tanks destroying the streets of Washington this Saturday, and we will have National Guardsmen and active duty U.S. Marines standing around Los Angeles wondering what this has to do with their military careers. And it's all because he has no freaking idea how to deal with this politically, and he's absolutely panicking about the, I think, trenchant and joyful and sustainable opposition against him.
Yeah, it is clearly something he has been all too eager to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Once you've done this, though, there's not much else to do. Sorry, big guy, last card.
Right. We will see. Thank you, Rachel.
Thanks.